By the third day, I couldn't even make a sound anymore. In the darkness, trapped between those narrow rocks, all I could hear was my own breathing. And in that moment, I realized I might never see the outside world again. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to tell you a real survival story that happened to me. My name is Alex Parker. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a geologist in Colorado. Caving has been my hobby for 5 years, but that day, everything went wrong, and I almost lost my life. This story shows how dangerous caves can be, and how to survive with the right techniques. Now I'm going to share those terrifying 3 days with you in every detail, because this information might save your life one day. I was born and raised in Colorado. I work at a company in Denver and specialize in cave systems. Colorado's rocky structure contains massive cave networks formed by thousands of years of water erosion. This is my passion area. My family always asks, "Why do you have such a dangerous hobby?" Actually, caving is a safe sport when done correctly. You go as a team, follow safety protocols, stay in constant communication. But sometimes your curiosity leads you in the wrong direction. Everything started 3 days ago. On Saturday morning, I went alone to examine a newly discovered cave system in the Rocky Mountains of Montana. This cave had been found by local climbers just a week before, and no one had done a detailed examination yet. I had gotten permission from my company because we thought there might be potential mineral deposits in this area. If I found something interesting, we would come back as a team later to do detailed work. I left Denver at 7 a.m. After a 4-hour drive, I arrived at the campground near Glacier National Park. I checked my equipment: LED flashlight, spare batteries, 2 liters of water, energy bars, communication radio, first aid kit, rope, helmet, gloves, and GPS device. Let me give you the first important lesson here. Equipment control is vital in caving, especially your light sources. I survived because I brought spare batteries. Everything was in place. I made final contact with my family and company. "I'll be back by 8 p.m., I had said. This was one of my biggest mistakes, giving a definite time. The cave entrance was quite wide and easily passable. The first 100 meters were problem-free. The ceiling was high, there was airflow. This showed that the cave had other exits. As I progressed, I took limestone samples from the walls and took photographs. There were stalactite and stalagmite formations created by water seepage. This showed that the cave was quite old. For the first hour, everything went according to plan. Around 11:30, I discovered something interesting. On the left wall, about 1.5 meters high, there was a small opening. Side branches usually contain the most interesting mineral formations of caves. I marked my position in the main corridor on my GPS and decided to enter the side branch. Just 30 minutes, I told myself. This was the mistake. Let me give you the second important lesson here. In caving, never deviate from your plan. If you leave the main route, always mark your path. To enter the side branch, I had to climb a bit. The first 20 meters were relatively wide. At the 30-meter mark, the tunnel split in two. The right branch looked wider. I chose the right. This decision would change my life. Around 2:30 p.m., I had gone quite deep into the right branch. The cave had become much more complex here. After progressing about 45 minutes in this branch, I encountered a magnificent sight. I had emerged into a small chamber, and there were incredible crystal formations here. I was so excited that I didn't notice how time was passing. I worked in this chamber for almost an hour. When I finished collecting samples, my watch showed 3:45 p.m. I decided to go back. That's when I realized the horrible truth. I couldn't remember the way I came. There were 4 different exits in the chamber. I didn't know exactly which one I had come from. My heart rate increased. "Stay calm, Alex," I told myself. I carefully examined each passage with my flashlight. I tried the first passage. I progressed for about 15 minutes but reached a place that didn't seem familiar at all. I went back. I tried the second passage. This was longer, but it gradually narrowed. Finally, I reached a point where I could only crawl forward. My claustrophobia showed itself for the first time here. Let me give you the third vital lesson here. Claustrophobia is a real danger. If you panic in confined spaces, take deep breaths, stay calm, and move slowly. My heart started beating very fast. I was soaked in sweat. I hastily started crawling back. In panic, I returned to the main chamber. I didn't have the courage to try the fourth passage. It was already 7:30 p.m. It was completely dark outside. I took out my radio and tried to call for help. There was no signal. I was too deep. That night I couldn't sleep at all. I had drunk about 600 milliliters of the 2 liters of water in my bottle. I hadn't touched my food yet. On the morning of the second day, I decided to think more systematically. If I panicked, I couldn't solve anything. I would examine each passage one by one, carefully. Let me give you the fourth important lesson here. When you're lost, a systematic approach saves lives. Try every option in a planned way. While following the airflow in the second passage again, there was a slight current. This was very promising. Following airflow is the most important technique for finding exits in caves. For 2 hours I crawled through these narrow passages. My hands and knees were bleeding. Finally I emerged into a larger area. This resembled a large hall. The ceiling was very high and there was a crack above. Light was coming in. I wondered if I could make my voice heard through that crack. I started shouting, "Help! Help!" I shouted for 30 minutes, but no response came. By the end of the second day, my water situation became critical. I only had about 400 milliliters of water left. I felt a metallic taste in my mouth, a sign of dehydration. In this situation, water-finding techniques had to come into play. When I examined the cave walls, I saw moisture traces in some places. I took out my plastic bag and stuck it to the wet part of the wall. Let me give you the fifth vital lesson here. Moisture collection technique in caves can save lives. You can collect water from wall moisture using plastic bags. After waiting 4 hours, I saw that about 50 milliliters of water had collected inside the bag. Very little, but psychologically, very important. The third day was the hardest. Physical fatigue was now starting to affect my mental capacity. I had started hearing sounds. Sometimes I heard my mother's voice, thinking she was calling me. My flashlight battery had also dropped to critical level. I put in my spare batteries and reduced flashlight use to minimum level. By the afternoon of the third day, I decided to do one last search without missing any detail. While following the airflow in the second passage again, I saw small stone pieces on the ground. These looked fresh. I followed the stone pieces and discovered a hidden passage behind a very small protrusion on the left wall, so narrow that it was impossible to see in the first searches. This passage looked very narrow, but it was my last chance. Before entering the passage, I prepared. I only took my flashlight and water bottle. For 30 minutes, I progressed centimeter by centimeter in this narrow passage. Sometimes the passage narrowed so much that I couldn't breathe. The most difficult part was where the passage took a 45-degree incline. At one point, I thought I was completely stuck. I could neither go forward nor retreat. At that moment, I experienced real panic. But then I pulled myself together, changed my body position slightly, and pushed myself forward. After 1 hour, finally, I saw a real miracle. Light. Real, natural sunlight. Exit. I quickly crossed the last 20 meters. When I got outside, the sunlight hurt my eyes very much. After 3 days of darkness, I was practically blind. But I had never been this happy. The place I came out was about 800 meters away from the main entrance, on the other side of the hill. When I returned to the camp, search and rescue teams were there. I was taken to the hospital. I had lost 5 kilos, was dehydrated, but had no serious damage. The techniques I shared with you kept me alive. Systematic thinking. Make systematic plans, even in panic. Airflow tracking. The most important method for finding exits in caves. Moisture collection. You can collect water from walls using plastic materials. Marking system. Mark where you go. Detailed observation. Don't miss any detail. The life-saving exit might be where you least expect it. This experience taught me the human body and mind are incredibly resilient. But most importantly, with the right knowledge and a never-give-up spirit, you can overcome even the most difficult situations. Thank you so much for listening to me. If this story taught you something, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You can share your own experiences in the comments. See you in the next video with a new survival story. Take care of yourselves.